Things have taken a pretty interesting turn in the video game acquisition space lately. Microsoft has previously bought Bethesda for $7.6 billion and then recently bought Activision Blizzard for $70 billion, a deal that is still trying to get regulatory approval. Sony has bought Bungie for $3.6 billion, the maker of Destiny. Previously, when all these deals and acquisitions were being made, the kind of stated point, or the implied point at least, was that Microsoft and Sony are trying to pick up developers and publishers and IPs that they can then turn into exclusive offerings on either PlayStation or Xbox in an effort to try and get people to buy those consoles or stay within those ecosystems. But pretty much just in the last, couple weeks alone here, we have seen a shift in this where both Sony and Microsoft appear to be looking toward a future where both of them are multi-platform publishers in addition to having their own ecosystems. This started with Sony, more or less. The Bungie deal was followed by an announcement immediately that their signature game, Destiny 2, would remain multi-platform now and in the future. And not only that, future Bungie games would also have the ability to be multi-platform, even though Sony technically owns Bungie. This has not been the case with other studios Sony owns, which are kind of the big famous, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man games that are kind of a core part of the Sony identity. But now Sony owns Destiny as a franchise, and yet it is still going to be offering it to all of the platforms it currently exists on, which includes Xbox. This past week, things got even more interesting with the Microsoft deal, where as a result of Activision Blizzard, Microsoft would now own Call of Duty and all of Blizzard's games like Overwatch and Diablo and things like that. There's been a lot of debate about what that means for Call of Duty because when Microsoft bought Bethesda, one of their kind of early announcements was that Starfield would be a very large Bethesda game coming up, would be an Xbox exclusive. But now Microsoft is appearing to speak kind of directly to regulators that no, they are not planning on making Call of Duty exclusive. They have existing contracts in place where like Sony has to kind of keep getting Call of Duty games via a past deal with Activision, but many thought that when that expired in a couple years or so, Microsoft would take that franchise exclusive. They have very much said pretty emphatically now that they are not doing that, and they have said outright that they are planning to treat Call of Duty like Minecraft. Minecraft is a series that Microsoft acquired many years ago for a few $1 billion, and they have kept that available on all platforms, but recently, kind of in an effort to compete with Sony's exclusive offerings, it seemed like they were making all these acquisitions to make kind of purely a series of first-party games. But now, maybe they think they went a little too far and this deal might not go through if they do not make it clear that in this case, for a company this big with games this popular, that they do have to act as a multi-platform publisher. So they seem to imply that Call of Duty is going to stay multi-platform indefinitely. They kind of say that about maybe Blizzard games too, although the fate of that is kind of unclear. Overwatch 2 seems like it would be likely to continue to be a PlayStation release. Diablo 4 we don't really know enough about to say for sure about its console plans. And then Blizzard announced a new survival game that is going to be released in a couple years. And the implication here is that that probably would end up being a multi-platform game that would be available on PlayStation also. But this kind of signifies a move into the idea that both Sony and Microsoft want to be multi-platform publishers as opposed to only just stocking their own shelves with video games. And maybe they just finally realize that like they can't really do this indefinitely. They have to kind of play ball in terms of letting some of these franchises breathe a little bit outside of platforms. Particularly, this keeps happening with these acquisitions that are for games that are on existing platforms already and have been for years. It would be very weird and totally kind of fracture and destroy the fan base of Destiny if Sony had suddenly made that a game you could only play on PlayStation. Similarly, Call of Duty seemed like it would be a very big sales loss if suddenly 100+ million PlayStation players could no longer buy Call of Duty once a year, every 2 years, or whatever it ends up being. So it appears both of these developers are sort of finding middle grounds where they both do have a lot of kind of exclusive publishers at this point that are making games only for them, but with some of these larger acquisitions, they have realized that there is a benefit in also just being kind of a publisher that is able to rake in revenue from multiple sources, including their own rivals, because, Sony will make money from Destiny 2 sales and microtransaction sales on Xbox. Xbox will make money from Call of Duty sales on Sony. And Xbox has hinted they want to bring, their games to Nintendo and all these other places too. And the goal is kind of expansion and wide availability of content, especially for Microsoft with Game Pass and cloud streaming. That is kind of first and foremost its primary goal. But Sony's acquisition of Bungie and allowing Destiny to stay multi-platform says to me that they kind of understand that this is the direction things are moving as well. And Microsoft's may realize that, like, fundamentally this deal may not even happen if suddenly, they just bought the biggest game franchise in the world, Call of Duty, and made it exclusive to Xbox. That may trigger a lot of regulatory kind of alarm bells and things like that. So they're making it very clear now that they are planning on treating this like Minecraft, a game that is still widely available on all the platforms it was before Microsoft bought it, and they are pitching this as we are just kind of investing in the series and growing the series. This isn't to say that, like, this deal could never produce exclusive games out of Activision Blizzard. There's been a lot of talk about kind of dormant Activision franchises coming back. We don't know all of Blizzard's future plans, but it stands to reason there could be some exclusive games here. But this also brings up the idea that, okay, well, everyone assumed that after Bethesda made Starfield exclusive, that the Elder Scrolls 6, the next huge game after that, was going to be Microsoft exclusive too. But that's a very old series. That is a series that has been on PlayStation for a long time now. So maybe that is going to stay multi-platform, and this kind of flips the old narrative on its head, where Sony and Microsoft are both demonstrating that they are kind of okay and actually at least publicly happy about starting to be kind of multi-platform publishers in the way we saw Activision Blizzard, EA, Ubisoft, Take-Two, all these big companies were previously. So the future is not necessarily just this walled garden of exclusives for each individual console. That still will exist to some extent, but I think we are going to see more and more of this kind of crossover, and there's no real telling what form this could take. There's always been, these rumors about what if Game Pass comes to, or what if xCloud comes to Nintendo Switch. Like, sounds crazy, but, at this point, anything seems possible, and I think with future acquisitions, we might see more of this to come, as opposed to sort of just locking down developers for your own purposes and your own ecosystem.